Hey everybody, this is David BarnYard Bees. Well, look, it's that time of year. It's February 10th. It's always somewhere in the middle of February when this stuff starts blooming out, this red maples. It's always hard to tell because if you come out of a cold snap and then right into a warm snap, anytime in February, it usually brings them out. I don't know if it was last year or year before. It seemed like it was later in February. But this year, well, I actually noticed a tree down there in the bee yard that was bloomed out. It's cold out right now. It's probably, it may be in the 50s. The red maple is popping out, but it's still not viable enough really for the bees to be very active on it, and it's cold and it's windy. So that's the thing about red maple. I don't really depend on it. I mean, I do depend on it as a food source for the bees, but I use it more as a marker than a food source because this stuff right here is short-lived. And it's the first thing, except for a few dandelions popping up here and there, and some ornamental type trees that you see occasionally now popping up a little bit, but a lot of times the bees won't even feed on those. But I use this as a marker. When you start seeing this stuff, it's a good thing that's bloomed out, and you're hoping for good weather while it's out. But if it turns cold, it turns rainy, then this stuff is useless and the bees just won't get any use out of it. But it's always good when they do, if you understand what I'm talking about. It's not guaranteed though, because it's the only thing out there viable where there's a lot of it. But it can be worthless if it starts raining or it turns cold. Then the bees are just out of luck with the red maple. So what I do, I use this as a marker every year. I make a video on this every year about the red maple. And the biggest thing is to remind people it's time to feed your honeybees when you start seeing this stuff. Get that sugar water into your high top feeders, 2-to-1 ratio, or you can even make it a little bit thicker if you want. You don't want to chance a whole lot of moisture. Now, if you have enough sugar patties or sugar cakes in your hive, that will get you by as well for a little while. But if you really want that hive to start growing, then you need to go ahead and get your sugar water 2-to-1 mix. As I'm speaking, the chickens, they see me out here. Anytime they see me come out in the yard, they come running. And then when they find out I don't have any food, well, while they're out here, then they just start digging and eating. So, but anyway, just a little quick, short video on the importance of this. Now remember, this is North Georgia. Because I'm telling you to feed sugar water here, doesn't mean you need to start feeding it in West Virginia or Ohio or upper states. You know, it all use this as a marker in your state. And I tell people that, and it works out really well. The bees were eating the pollen feeder really heavy. And within the last couple of weeks, they've just about quit. They found a pollen source somewhere. And it's not the feeder because they're not hardly being in the feeder. But I've been watching them and they've been carrying it in, and this stuff just now blooms. So they was finding the source somewhere. There's no telling sometimes what's out there that's blooming that you're just not seeing. But this is the big one. This is the one that has the first big bloom, I guess you could say, that amounts to anything, if it's viable. Okay, it's February 17th, and this stuff is, the red maple is bloomed out about as much as it's going to bloom out. And we had a few days of good weather where the bees could get on this, but now it's turned cold, and it rained right before the cold. So they got a few days out of this maximum, and that's why I always push about it's time to feed your bees. It's time to feed the bees, because this stuff, even though it's good and it's one of the first things that they feed on, it's iffy whether or not it's going to make it. You're noisy. So that's the thing. I use it as a timeline. It's time to feed your bees, but don't count on it as a source, because you may not get it, because it may be too cold, it may turn too wet. But just something to add to it. I wanted to show you what it looked like. I wanted to show you what it looked like. If you wonder what that was a cat fight. Little interruption there. I just wanted to show you what it was like, all bloomed out. And that's about it, folks. Don't forget, click on the little bell, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching BarnYard Bees.